What's up, everyone? Welcome to Tater Talk. I'm Zach Hummel, joined by Graz. No Justin today, but we're going to move on. We're going to move forward. How's it going, Graz?
I'm just happy that I'm even Red Sox to Yankee fans today. Very good day for me.
Yeah, it's an even fight. It's not 2-on-1, it's 1-on-1. But Graz is wearing a Washington Nationals hat, which he will get into on the podcast why he's doing that. I didn't know this. Graz kind of put it out before we were recording that if you're an American League or a National League fan, you can pick a couple teams from the other league to root for. And Graz's team is the Nationals. I don't know if you have any other teams, Graz.
Oh, I'm a big Reds guy. We've talked about that many times
Reds.
before. My uncle's a Reds fan. But those are it. That's it for me.
I think the Brewers might be my National League team. I don't know. I just feel like their fans get into it and they have a pretty good home environment when they're good. So that's an interesting conversation. I'm wondering if anyone else does. Tweet us after the podcast goes out if you have a favorite team from the other league that you root for. So let's start the podcast like we do every other thing. Favorite stories of the week. I'll let you go first, Graz. What do you got?
My favorite story, very simply, here's the Nationals related. They came back from 10-2, hit a grand slam, did Trey Turner, and they played probably the best baseball game I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. They were playing the Marlins, right?
Yes. They came all the way back.
Those teams have been playing each other a lot, and each game has been weirder and weirder. Like the Marlins will blow out the Nationals, and the Nationals will be getting blown out, and they'll come all the way back. Like you said, that was one of the biggest comebacks. Was that the Mark Reynolds game, or was that another game?
No, that was the game after, which I will get to later. Wild.
Yeah, that ended like 17-2, right? I think the final score was.
Yeah, excuse me. I read the wrong stat. They were down 9-0 in this game and came back.
Still crazy. It was versus the Marlins, so we'll put an asterisk next to that. But the Nationals, when the Nationals and Marlins play this year, you better buckle up. There's been some weird things happening. So that's just one of those inside baseball moments when two teams, when they play each other, just weird shit happens. So that was a great story from the week. The Nationals look to be struggling a little bit. We'll see if they can get back on track. My story comes from the Minnesota Twins. I could not fathom this when I saw this on the baseball Reddit. So the Twins played the Brewers on July 3rd, and they didn't, throughout the whole game, they did not record an out at first base, which I think is the craziest stat I've ever heard in my life. So this has just happened 6 times in 20 years in MLB. So the first baseman, whoever it was on that day, I think it was Joe Mauer for the Twins, he did not assist or make one put out. So it was all fly balls, strikeouts, other things that happened at second and third. There was not one put out made at first base, which I think is absolutely insane. I can't even wrap my head around that.
So are you including in this, clarifying question, so there was never a ground ball that was then thrown to first base either?
Exactly. There was not even that.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, I thought you meant like Joe Mauer didn't catch a pop-up. I'm like, I've seen Joe Mauer not catch a pop-up. No. So there was no ground outs either.
No ground outs. Absolutely insane. And the guy that was pitching during it was Jake Odorizzi, who I have ripped on Twitter before. And it makes sense that he was pitching during the game because he either strikes someone out or just walks someone. There's no in between. He never gets out of the 5th inning. He's always at like 110 pitches. But I saw that and it blew me away. I don't know why this is not getting more publicity because I think that might happen less than a no-hitter or a perfect game. That's an absolutely insane thing to happen in the game. It just speaks to baseball having all these weird comeuppance, during the season. It just went under the radar.
You said there was 6 times. This is the 6th time it's happened?
6th time in the last 20 years.
There's been, 23 perfect games.
So this is more rare. Yep. Crazy. And leave it up to the Minnesota Twins to do it, who have been absolutely terrible this year, but they ended up doing that.
That's a good day for old guy Joe Mauer, though. Can just hang out, sit out in the sun, maybe talk to some fans.
Yeah, they said the only time he touched the ball was when there was a pickoff attempt. So he only had to catch the ball on a pickoff attempt. So just a crazy stat, crazy thing happening around baseball. Another crazy story to get into our topic. So it seems like this guy comes out every week and says something that's absolutely crazy. And Trevor Bauer, pitcher from the Indians, is who I'm talking about. He came out this week in the media and the media members don't have to get Trevor Bauer to talk and tell stories. He'll just right away tell them what's going on in his brain. And he said he made a deal with one of his childhood friends that if he ended up signing a multi-year deal in the MLB, the guy would be able to shoot him in the nutsack with a paintball gun. I'm reading from the story here. So he has to sign 1-year deals, and if he doesn't, he gets shot in the balls with paintballs from his friend. I just think that's absolutely insane. I guess he's done that up until now, so he's just going to keep taking 1-year deals. But I hope that doesn't affect his free agency. That teams are like, oh, he won't sign a multi-year deal because he gets shot in the dick, or he signs a multi-year deal and then makes a promotion or makes some news out of him getting shot in the dick with paintballs. What do you got on this, Graz?
Me, okay, you're not going to expect this. I have experience with this. I went paintballing once in my entire life, and it ended very quickly and efficiently with an inappropriate shot to the nether region, as people would call it. It hurts, but in no way would someone say, "Oh, we're going to give you 5 years, $110 million." Yeah, I'm going to take that every time. Shoot away, fire away.
See, Bauer strikes me as a guy that would, once he makes an agreement or a handshake agreement, he'll stick to it. So maybe he likes the pain. He strikes me as a guy that maybe does just because he's such a weird dude. But we'll have to keep an eye on this because if he signs a multi-year deal, we all should be on him on Twitter saying, you said you were going to get shot in the balls. Let's see the video.
I do like the idea, though, of doing it like a promotional event, like if he has a charity or something. Yeah. And everyone comes down to maybe he's staying in Cleveland, comes down. It's not Jacobs Field, it's Progressive Field now. But they sell tickets and it's like a dunk tank, but way more inappropriate.
Yeah, everyone comes up and there's one paintball gun. You just take your shot at Trevor Bauer's nutsack. I would drive to Cleveland, drive or fly to Cleveland to have an opportunity to do that.
There'd be a train from Boston to Cleveland. That man has killed Boston the past couple of years.
That would be the longest line ever to shoot Trevor Bauer with a paintball gun. I know Justin would. He's not here to speak for himself, but I know he hates Trevor Bauer. So Justin might be first in line if he had an opportunity to shoot Trevor Bauer in the nuts. Just another crazy story coming out of Trevor Bauer. He's never one to not, drop a quote in a media interview. And I think, this is the stuff baseball needs, though. I mean, it's just like monotonous during the week. Weird stories like this have to come up. And Bauer's, he only pitches every 5th day, so he's just trying to mix it up. I respect him for at least making storylines with this.
I've always been interested in players that make storylines. That's why I'm a big Puig guy. That's why I'm always you got to live a little flair. There's 162 of these damn games. You got to do something to keep people interested. And if it's talk about your nuts on national radio, then I guess that's it.
Yep. Trevor Bauer, I mean, he's having a great season. And leading into our next topic, he was elected an All-Star this year. So the All-Star rosters were announced. A lot of hoopla around it. In my opinion, I think the AL has a much stronger team than the NL just overall. And there were some large snubs, mostly in the AL, but also in the NL as well. So I'm just going to run down the positions for both leagues. And if we have anything to talk about within it, we can do it. If we don't, then we don't have to say anything because I think a lot of these are pretty unanimous. So first base in the AL is Jose Abreu from the White Sox. He was far and away the guy that got the most votes. Second place was Yuli Gurriel from the Astros himself. So I had no problem with Jose Abreu winning it. I think he's one of the most underrated players in baseball just because he plays with the White Sox. NL, Freddie Freeman was with the Braves. I talked about him last week as being an MVP candidate just because the Braves are winning now and he's having one of his best seasons to date. It was sort of a no-brainer to have Freddie Freeman at first base. So I have no qualms with these first base candidates. How about you, Graz?
No, my only thing is I didn't realize how crappy first baseman in the American League were. I'm like, Jose Abreu's having a good year, and I think he deserves it. But, your boy Mitch Moreland is in there as a reserve. I'm
crazy.
There is no options here at first base.
That's crazy because, with those early 2000s AL teams, first base was, the position. I mean, your first baseman was 4th spot, one of the best players in baseball, and now it's become a position where you just stick a guy who can't play anywhere else, It's one of those things. Baseball is getting more athletic, and I think that speaks to, who Abreu and Freeman, both solid athletes, but again, they're not sort of guys you talk about in the upper echelon. When you think first baseman, you think the big power hitter, and neither of those guys are really huge power guys. They're more doubles, hit for average guys. So that's a good point, Graz. That's interesting to talk about there. Moving on to second base, AL, Jose Altuve. I had no problem with this. He's having a down year compared to what he's done in the past. But again, his slashes are ridiculous. He's hitting 339, 406 on base. Just doing what Jose Altuve does. I think what he does for that team is even more than what he does in the stat sheet. He's a leader. on the field. He's a 6-time All-Star now, so he's getting up there. He's becoming like a guy you can just plug into the second place on the American League, which is crazy coming from where he came from with his size and everything. And in the NL, Javi Baez from the Cubs, he's been absolutely on fire lately in the second half of the first half. Probably to start, I think Albies was in the lead from the Braves to start the year, and Baez just overtook him. He's carried the Cubs these last couple of weeks, so I had no problem here either. I think Altuve and Baez are two of the most exciting players to watch in baseball at the second base position.
Nothing, all good again. I think they did an overall good job, so I'm not going to have many points on it. The one thing I have to say is I tuned in because we always talk about Javi Baez being like this flashy, fun player, and I like him. But I never really looked at his stats, and then I'm like, oh, God, he's actually playing well. Because there was a couple years, like, was that 2 years ago when they were going for the World Series? He was, like, struggling, and everyone's like, oh, he's good. And I'm like, I know he has, like, a cannon for an arm, but, like, it looks like he's swinging a toothpick.
I have that same thing with Yasiel Puig. Like, I'll see him and be like, okay, like, he has the rocket arm, but is he doing well? And I'll look at his stats and be like, oh, he actually is pretty good. You know, it's what there are those players that, like, they make the headlines with their great plays in the field or highlights, but you don't see them on a day-to-day basis. And Baez definitely having one of the years, probably his career year thus far, as you said, Graz. He sort of struggled the last couple years. I'll run through these a little bit quicker now. Third base, AL Jose Ramirez. Having a little bit of a down year for him. Home run numbers are up, but his average is a little bit lower. I had no problem with this one either. I know some people had some problems with Jose Ramirez. I didn't. NL, Justin's guy, Nolan Arenado. I mean, there was no argument there. I think he's the best third baseman in baseball overall. So do you have any qualms there, Graz?
No, keep moving. Arenado is the most fun player, and I hope he does the home run derby.
Yeah. Have they announced that yet? Who's doing the derby?
Wednesday.
Okay. It'll be interesting for sure. And shout out to my guy, Trevor Story. He made the NL reserves as a shortstop. Shouts. Shortstop in the AL, which is probably the most jam-packed position of talent in baseball overall. Manny Machado won the vote. He's in there. He's having a great year. Orioles suck, so he's not really getting the prime time that he usually gets. Other guys here, I mean, you could have gone Correa, Lindor. Bogarts is having an above-average year, but it's a competitive position. I had no problem with Machado there. I think he's the biggest star. He's one of the biggest stars in baseball, you know, just name notoriety, so I had no problem there. And NL, Brandon Crawford, not a position that has a lot of stars in the NL. Trevor Story could have been in the conversation, but I think Crawford's, you know, probably the best defensive shortstop in MLB, and he's starting to get his hitting going. So I had no problem here, but I could pick any of those guys that I mentioned in the AL, and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, that position is unbelievably stacked, but Machado is having the best year, and it's the most important for him to start because this is just his showcase either to get traded by the 31st or, more importantly, to sign with a team that one of us likes.
Yeah, hopefully the Red Sox, but, you know, I won't put it past anyone. Outfield, AL outfield is absolutely stacked. So Mookie Betts from the Red Sox, Mike Trout, and Aaron Judge. I mean, if you're building a team in MLB right now and you could pick anyone from MLB to be in your outfield, I honestly think those three guys are probably the top guys you're picking right now. You got Betts and Trout, who are great defensive players. Judge is an okay defensive player, but his pop is better than the other two. So stacked outfield from the AL. I have no qualms there. In the NL, not a stacked field. Nick Markakis gets voted. He's starting, which is crazy at his age. He's having the best season of his career. Matt Kemp having a great year too. Just, you know, he's been struggling the past couple of years. And then Bryce Harper, who's struggling so much this year, having his worst career year. So it's weird that Markakis and Kemp are having career years after struggling the past couple of years, and Bryce Harper struggling after great years. And that's the NL outfield. Graz, do you have any, snubs there?
No, I was just excited to see that the 2008 All-Star game with Matt Kemp and Nick Markakis.
Yeah.
I was pumped about that.
Nick Markakis starting for the NL in the All-Star game is that's one of the best stories of the year. That's just incredible that he's still doing that. I think he's 33, 34.
He's fourth in their lineup when they were playing the Yankees this past, week and a half ago. He's in fourth.
Yeah, him and Freeman, you know, they're doing it in the middle of the Braves order for sure. And then catcher, we can move through this quickly. Wilson Ramos from the Rays, not a real, deep position in the AL. And then Wilson Contreras from the Cubs. I'm sure everyone's seen on Twitter. He had a great reaction. He started crying. It showed, we forget sometimes that the All-Star game is just kind of a run through and people go through the motions. But for some of these guys, it means a lot, to do that. Verlander had a post on Twitter today speaking about his first All-Star game and taking the picture with all the other All-Stars and how it meant so much to him. I think Contreras is going to have a similar experience this year. So I had no problem with either of these. Ramos is under the radar, but that's just because the AL does not have a lot of good catchers.
Yeah, the best catcher in the AL is having by far his worst season this year.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Sanchez will probably be the guy you'll put, ink to pen for the rest of, his career to be the AL catcher. And then JD Martinez from the Red Sox getting some love, getting in there as the DH, quote unquote DH. He's having an unbelievable season. Even lately, he's been hot. So you can't have any argument there. I'll run through the AL pitchers real quickly. Trevor Bauer, who we spoke about, Barrios from the Twins, Chapman from your Yankees, Graz, Garrett Cole from the Astros, Edwin Diaz from the Mariners, who's been absolutely lights out. I think he might set the saves record for a single season. He's at 34 right now. The all-time record is 62 from Francisco Rodriguez. I think he'll break that. J.A. Happ, who's on the trading block right now. Joe Jimenez from the Tigers, who I've never heard of. Craig Kimbrell from the Red Sox, Kluber from the Indians, Sale from the Red Sox, Severino from the Yankees, Blake Trine, who's got an absolutely nasty sinker, 99 on the black, gets ground balls from the A's, and then Verlander from the Astros. I think that's an absolutely stacked pitching staff, and I think it really puts the NL to shame when I'll start going through them. I had no qualms here. Joe Jimenez, I don't really know, so I'm guessing he's having a pretty good year. But I had no other, guys from that I thought got snubbed. We'll speak about our snubs later, but I had no real problem with the guys they put in.
No, not at all. Two things that I wanted to bring up. One, the guy from Trenton from the Athletics. If you haven't watched him pitch, it's unbelievable. He was going to be the guy at the trade deadline that everyone was going to go after. Excuse me. And unfortunately, the Athletics are 10 games over 500 and actually look like they can compete for a wild card spot. So it looks like your Red Sox and the Astros won't be getting who they wanted. Two, I'm going to put you on the spot here with a question. Who's your starter?
Who's your starter? For the AL, I'm going to go Severino if he's up to it. I think he's deserved it. He's my Cy Young guy right now. If not him, then Sale. I think Sale's pitching Wednesday for the Red Sox, so he should have enough rest if they don't pitch him again on that Sunday. So I think either of those guys, you got to go with, either Sale or Severino. If not them, Verlander possibly. But again, I think Sale and Severino are having the best. You got to go Severino, right, Graz?
I'm going Sevy because I'm a homer, but Sale is the next best option. I just don't want AJ Hinch because he's managing to choose one of those stupid Astros players that are not as good.
Yeah, to be honest, Verlander and Cole are probably, their managers managing. They might want to start, especially Cole, because I think Verlander's done it before. But we'll see what he comes up with. Guys always pull out too because they're pitching and they're injured. So we'll see what happens. AL reserve just ripping through it. Mitch Moreland from the Red Sox gets in somehow. He's having a good year, but I watch them every night. And I don't look at that guy and be like, oh, he's got to be on the All-Star team. But who am I? Maybe there's just no one else better. Gleyber Torres from the Yankees, preeminent rookie of the year, gets in there. He also had a similar reaction to Contreras. Says it's a humbling experience. Looking forward to it. Bregman from the Astros, who's having an above-average year and sort of living up to his potential. Lindor makes it from the Indians. Brantley makes it from the Indians. Haniger from the Mariners, who's really led the charge for them this year. George Springer gets in from the Astros. He's having a pretty bad year, George Springer-wise, but I think Hinch being the manager helped him out there. Sin-Chu Chu from the Rangers. He's had this ridiculous on-base streak. I don't know what it's at this point, but he definitely deserves to be in it. Salvador Perez from the Royals, Nelson Cruz from the Mariners. I think it's a good list from the AL. A lot of versatility there. I can't really speak like AL reserves. Once you get into those guys, it's like there's not a huge amount of difference. So I didn't really have any anger over who didn't make it there straight in.
Everyone there makes pretty much perfect sense. Every year there's someone on the All-Star team that you're like, this person is so average and they made it in. I call it the Brock Holt Award, where Brock Holt made it, and I'm like, why is he here? And Mitch Moreland is actually doing better than I expected, so I'm not giving him that award, unfortunately. For you, there is no award. I think everyone deserves to be there. That's there. Unfortunately, I don't think Glaber's going to get to play because he's hurt still. So that's very unfortunate. But I think it'll give an opportunity to get someone that might be on the final vote, nicknamed Segura, to get in there, which he should have been in originally too.
Yeah, I think if you have any, guy that should have made, I think Springer's having the worst year of everyone that was picked, and I think he just got picked because he's a big name at this point. So, going to the NL pitchers quickly: Patrick Corbin from the D-backs, DeGrom from the Mets, Doolittle from the Nationals. He'll be hosting. Mike Foltynewicz from the Braves, Josh Hader, who's been unreal with the Brewers. Brad Hand, say hello to the Hand out there in San Diego. Kenley Jansen with the Dodgers. John Lester with the Cubs. Miles Mikolas from the Cardinals, a.k.a. the Lizard King, comes over from Japan and makes the All-Star game in his first year over here after a long stint in Japan. So that's crazy. Aaron Nola, who was Justin's When You're Hot last week, really under the radar. And Max Scherzer, who will definitely be the starter for the National League, I would imagine, at home in front of his home crowd. Felipe Vasquez for the Pirates. Remember that guy? He changed his name from Felipe Rivero last year, so don't get it twisted with him. Again, I don't watch the NL that closely, but these guys seem like the best pitchers in the NL. They have a lot of closers, which I don't know if that will be a hindrance to them, that these guys can only go one inning, but we'll see. I think Scherzer has to be the starter, right?
That's what I was saying. Scherzer, or you do something absolutely crazy, and I throw Hader in the first inning.
Hader.
The opener.
Yeah.
You're doing openers. It's the year of the opener.
You just let him pitch until someone makes contact off him. Like if he keeps
exactly
out, you just leave him in.
He might go 12. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he has a Pedro-like performance in the All-Star game where he just, sits everyone down.
Imagine you do that and then you bring in Scherzer out. I'm big on the opener. Like, that would be awesome. He'd strike out everyone. He'd strike out 6 straight. Convinced.
Especially in this year where teams are starting to put relievers as starters, that would make perfect sense just to put a cap on it. NL reserves, going through it quickly. Paul Goldschmidt from the D-backs. He's turned his season around, started out slow. Votto from the Reds. Graz the Reds guy, so he's happy he got in. Ozzie Albies from the Braves had a great year. Jeanette from the Reds gets in. Trevor Story, my guy from the Rockies. Another Red, Eugenio Suarez gets in. 3 Reds in the NL reserves. They are probably the hottest team in baseball right now, and getting 3 guys in the All-Star game for the Reds, that's history stuff based on how they've played lately. Blackman from the Rockies gets in. Lorenzo Cain from the Brewers. I think they just activated him, so he should be able to play. Yelich from the Brewers. Buster Posey from the Giants. Real Muto from the Marlins, who's been absolutely on fire. I think he had 5 hits in yesterday's game. I think he'll be a trade deadline acquisition someone makes. So solid list from the NL. I think biggest storyline with the NL reserves is 3 Reds get in, and then Lorenzo Cain and Yelich, who came to the Brewers this season, both make the All-Star team. Usually when you see guys move teams, they don't play as well, and both those guys have lived up to their potential. So should be interesting to see how those guys get in. I think a lot of these guys are new names to the All-Star game, so it'll be good to get some fresh blood in there.
It seems like the old guard has finally moved on. Like there's no Canoes, there's no Miguel Cabreras like them we were growing up, like the names that you could always pencil in. Furthermore, if Scooter does it, my boy Scooter, if he does the home run derby, that's my dark horse pick for the home run derby.
Scooter Gennett.
Yeah, that guy hits piss rockets.
Yeah, and when you're hitting at Nationals ballpark, it's a pretty good hitter's ballpark. So down the line, left or right, that will favor them. So we'll see who gets to the home run derby. That'll be interesting. So the AL. So the AL guys, they always have this vote to get the last guy in. For the AL this year, it's Benintendi from the Red Sox, Eddie Rosario from the Twins, who's Justin's guy, Gene Segura from the Mariners, who you mentioned, Graz, Andrelton Simmons from the Angels, and then Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees. Graz, who would you vote in if you had a vote for the last guy to get in the All-Star game?
You're going to love this.
Don't be Stanton, please.
Rosario.
Okay, I like that.
He's been the Twins this year. Like that, they're like kind of meh. I understand, but they're the only reason they're not like won 4 games so far.
As a Yankees fan, can you admit Stanton shouldn't be in that list?
No, not at all. Stanton should absolutely be on the list.
Oh my God.
That is a lucre. What are you talking about? He just hit a home run today, just now, like an hour ago.
I don't know. We'll talk about our snubs, but I think Aaron Hicks should be in it over Giancarlo Stanton. in
That
that list.
that is the worst take I have ever heard. You are still in the mindset that Stanton's in this slump. Stanton is hitting well over 300 the past month. I don't know what you're watching.
No, I'm not watching. You're right.
That's why. There you go.
I'm not watching. I'd probably go with Segura or Rosario too, just because I think they've been more important to their teams, like you said.
Yeah.
So I would have no problem with either of those guys. And the NL, the last vote getters are Jesus Aguilar, which a lot of people think was a big snub there with the Brewers. He's been absolutely on fire. Brandon Belt from the Giants, Matt Carpenter from the Cardinals, Mac Muncy from the Dodgers, who's been an absolute tear. I think he has the most home runs in the shortest amount of games in Dodgers history. And then Trey Turner from the Nationals, who you mentioned, Graz. Who do you think gets in here? Who would your vote be for?
Me, I'm going Muncy just because he's been on an absolute tear. And I love continuing the story of Dodgers players that they take from other teams and then become absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, he was on the Athletics, right?
Yep.
Previously. Yeah, the Dodgers have a way of doing that with players. If I had to make a vote here, it'd be for Jesus Aguilar. I think he's been great for the Brewers, and I think he deserves to be in it. I would love to see Jesus Aguilar in the home run derby because he could hit some moonshots there. So with every All-Star vote, there comes snubs. I think there were some large snubs in the AL specifically. I have a list here of guys that probably got snubbed if you just looked on the list. The biggest one to me is Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's the AL ERA leader. I just think he's been unreal this season. I think, the AL definitely has strong pitching, but I think Snell deserves to be in. A couple other guys to list is James Paxton from the Mariners. Lowry didn't make it from the Athletics. These guys didn't even make the final vote, which is pretty ridiculous. Nick Castellanos from the Tigers having a career year. Charlie Morton from the Astros having a good year, and Bogarts from the Red Sox. To me, Blake Snell is probably the biggest snub in the AL. I thought Jed Lowry should have made it into the vote over Andrelton Simmons. That's just my opinion. Graz, do you have any, strong feelings on any of these snubs in the AL?
Snell has pitched very well, but my big one is Castellanos from Detroit. When the Yankees were playing Detroit a couple weeks ago, I saw him, and they usually pick one player from every team, even like the bad teams. And like the way he's playing, I'm like, oh, this is the guy they're going to take from Detroit. Like he's playing well. He's going to get a couple a hit or two in the All-Star game. That'd be great. And when he wasn't on the list, I was very surprised about that. And then I looked at his numbers, and I was even more surprised. He's a very good hitter. Yes,
he's a great hitter. And I was talking to one of my friends the other day. I think you should salute players who are having career years rather than a guy that's like a Bryce Harper having a shitty year. I would rather see the guy that's having a career year make it in because he might not see the All-Star game again. So he might not have a season like this again. Castellanos, for me, is one of those guys. I think him, Lowry, and Snell are probably the largest snubs in the AL. Chris Archer, who's Snell's teammate with the Rays, took to Twitter. He was outraged. I love how these guys write their notes in their iPhone and then just post it on Twitter instead of posting like an actual tweet with words in it. He's pretty much saying that it's blasphemous that Blake Snell is not an All-Star. He should have made the All-Star team straight up is what he's saying. He shouldn't even been an alternate, or he shouldn't have been a replacement or a backup or a final vote guy. And I tend to agree with them. And it was funny. Verlander, who seemed to agree with Archer, was saying, yeah, the way the players vote for other players in MLB All-Star game is absolutely archaic in the way it's done. So they still have to fill out a ballot, put it in an envelope, and send it to MLB for their votes. And he was saying, we have to ship our votes in way too early. Why can't we wait till a couple days before this is announced and just vote through an iPad in our clubhouse? And I see nothing wrong with that. Baseball needs to really upgrade the way these players are voting each other into the All-Star game. I think the fans get it right. They may put a couple guys in like Bryce Harper, who's having a down year just because they want to see him hit. But the fact of the matter is Blake Snell should be in. And I think his last couple of weeks have been really strong, and he's starting to get into the national conversation. And I think a lot of people would have voted him in if they voted now rather than a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you had a take on that, Graz, on the whole situation.
Here's my take on it. Surprisingly, I think this will actually help Blake Snell build his brand, if that makes any sense. Because if he was just voted into the All-Star game, we'd be like, oh, he's just in the All-Star game. Who is this guy? But now everyone is talking about him not being in the All-Star game. And so I think it will help him next time when it comes around if he continues this trend of being a quality pitcher where this will probably not happen again. And then if he, it builds his market, you know what I mean? And I think the Rays would be happy about that too because people are talking about the Rays.
Do you still think the reserves should be voted in by the players? I feel like these players don't watch the games. They just don't have time to, and I don't, hate them for that.
It should be managers, like opposing managers that have played, players, and media in 3 equal chunks.
Yeah, I would love to see it more in the media members just because they're baseball nerds and they follow the game across all platforms. And I think they would think Blake Snell would be in.
Yes, but I hate the media too because they're all old people that don't like the 3 true outcomes, and I love the 3 true outcomes.
Yeah, that's very true as well. It's definitely
That's why the
pros
balance.
and cons.
You see the players who play with them and understand the game, and then you have the managers that are overseeing the whole thing, and then you have the media that write about it and understand the game. If you do it in 3 separate, in like a pie chart, 30-30, 33, 33, 33.
Yep,
there's your math.
Exactly. I think that'd be a good way to go about it. Right now, it's 100% on the players, and I don't think they always get it right. And there's been articles written about that after this specific vote. So I would love to see a change there. NL, not too many snubs in my mind. A lot of the guys that were snubs are included in the final vote. Like I think Jesus Aguilar should have made it straight up. A couple other guys that didn't even make the final vote is Nimmo from the Mets, Ross Stripling from the Dodgers, who I've never heard of, but he's having a great year for them. Ottavino from the Rockies with his nasty slider. Schwarber and Almora from the Cubs, Peralta from the D-backs, Rondon from the Nationals, and Jeremy Jeffries from the Brewers, another bullpen arm. I had no problem with who they put in. I don't think any of those guys deserved to be in. They would have been in the final vote if they did. So I have no real anger about any of the NL snubs from my perspective.
Yeah, the only thing is Peralta got off to that great start and he just got hurt. If he wasn't, he would be in. And so there's really no problems there.
Yeah, I think the NL – I don't know how you feel about this, Graz, but I think the NL team's pretty weak compared to the AL team this year.
I think the NL in general is weak compared to the AL team-wise, so that it reflects that.
Yeah, but it seems to always go the opposite way. Whoever has a stronger team always seems to lose the All-Star game because the other team has like a chip on their shoulder. So we'll see what happens. I'm actually excited to watch it this year. It's weird. I was listening to Boston Sports Radio today, and they're pretty much saying the All-Star game lost its luster. And I sort of agree with them. Like, it's not appointment television to me anymore. I much rather watch the Futures game or the home run derby they have. But that's just me. And I think they're losing a lot of young fans too. Because I remember when we were growing up, the All-Star game was it. I mean, you were watching it. It was Barry Bonds. It was Torrey Hunter. I can remember Torrey Hunter robbing Barry Bonds in the All-Star game like it was yesterday. Remember the All-Star game at Fenway when McGwire hit all those home runs in the derby? Pedro sat down everyone. You just have those moments in your head, and I feel like we haven't had those the last couple of years. So how do you feel about the All-Star game sort of losing its luster, Graz?
I guess it's losing its luster a little bit, but I guess it comes with like the nostalgia of remembering it as a kid. So I have like the same things. I remember that Michael Young won every single All-Star game for the AL as a kid. Do you remember that? Like,
yeah.
Every time like Michael Young, game-winning hits after game-winning hits. And he stole third at one point to win the game at Yankee Stadium. I remember Prince Fielder hitting an absolute tater. And like, I guess it's like that kind of nostalgia, which we kind of remember it. But I've always been a fan that I was a fan of the determining home field. And I still am. Because it made it a little more interesting.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I need something on the line. And I think the MLB actually made a mistake going against that, like they did for the couple years where it did decide home field. I was all for that because I think it added some juice to the game. Like you said, Michael Young stealing third in like the 8th inning to get in scoring position for a sac fly. And the pitchers, I think, like, there's more juice to it too when you have something like that.
Yeah, and I love the idea. And they would talk about it in like these are maybe the old writers or something would get upset and they're like, these people that won't even affect the playoffs are affecting the playoffs. I'm like, that's exactly why I would watch it because someone like Nick Castellanos, who is not even close to making the playoffs as a Tiger, like will hit like a game-winning RBI, and that's why the Yankees would have home field in the playoffs.
Well, it adds to the camaraderie too, like because I think anyone in the AL or NL, they would want their division winner or their conference winner to win the World Series, so they're going to be pulling for each other in the game. Nick Castellanos, like you mentioned, he might. I love how we're just using Nick Castellanos, who's not going to make the All-Star game.
I know.
As an example,
new player. Yeah. Who's not going to make the playoffs? Who's bad? Okay, Manny Machado. There you go.
Yeah, like Manny Machado, he's going up for an at-bat with the game on the line. He's not doing it for himself in the Orioles, but all of his teammates are relying on him. All of his Yankees, Red Sox, Astros teammates are saying, get a big hit here because we want home field when we make the World Series. Maybe he spites them and shanks it on purpose, but I don't think the players do that. I think they all really want to pull for each other in their league.
I would even love it more if he's like, nah, I swung at some bad pitches just because I don't want to give them home field. Like, go Braves or something.
I wouldn't put it past some guys in MLB to do that, which would be absolutely insane if they did
Trevor Bauer
did do that. And
Trevor Bauer's like bouncing pitches, walking people around the bases.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer's just hitting people. That'd be great. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they need to add home field back in. I think it would add a little more juice to the game, which I think it needs. So the All-Star game next week. Looking forward to it. It does a good job of breaking up the season just because, as you said earlier, guys, 162 games, it gets monotonous. We need a break. We need something a little bit different, and the All-Star game and the whole All-Star period adds something to it. So I'm excited at least for that facet of it.
And you underplayed my favorite thing. I love the home run derby. I am one of those people that loves home runs. I love the home run derby every year.
To me, it's on a year-to-year basis depending on who's in it. Like if there's some guys I want to watch, I'll definitely watch it. Like when Justin Bour was in it for the first time, I had to watch that guy hit. And whenever there's a good story with someone's dad pitching to them, I always got to see that too. I'm a big proponent of putting your biggest stars in the home run derby. I know the NBA does it a little bit differently with the slam dunk contest. They put like guys no one's ever heard of really. But I think the MLB has to put their stars in it to get anyone to watch. Like I know Jesus Aguilar because I watch baseball on a nightly basis, but a lot of people would be like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
If he's in it. They need to put the stars in. They need the Judge. They need the Stanton. They need the Arenados. They need the Trouts. They need the Harpers to be in there for it to have the juice it needs to have to draw the viewers for sure.
Would your boy Mookie consider doing it?
I don't think he would do it. Not that he wouldn't be good at it. I just think he's so superstitious with his swing right now. I don't think he would do it. JD Martinez, I could see doing it because I don't think that guy could fuck up his swing. It's so beautiful.
He does the camera stuff. That's all they talk about. That he goes out there and watches film of himself after every swing he takes. He's a robot or something.
See, I think his swing would be perfect for the home run derby because he could just hit it to all fields. Kind of like Judge was last year, I believe. He could just hit home runs anywhere where it's pitched.
That was the whole thing. Is the reason why Judge and Stanton and even Gary Sanchez were successful is they can. Those pitches that they missed and go the other way ended up out of the ballpark too.
100%. Yeah. That's usually who wins a home run derby just because it's not a distance contest, right? It's about how many you hit. You just got to get out of the ballpark.
But when they hit them far, I get really excited. Oh, I'm so excited. I love the home run derby. It gets me so amped.
Yeah, the Nationals ballpark too. To me, it's not a great ballpark for a home run derby because there's not McCovey Cove where someone hits it into the water. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They have an upper deck in right field that Harper's hit it to a couple times, but we'll have to see. I'm not a big fan of their ballpark and the way it's laid out, but what can you do?
If they have good hard-hitting righties, you can hit it out of their ballpark because it's a walk-in. So you can literally just hit it down the street, and I'm interested to see if it's just gonna roll down the street and people are gonna be running after it.
Yeah, maybe they'll have a cam on it and just have it roll. That'd be fun. All right, keep your eye out for that. Graz has been to the Nationals ballpark, so he knows the layout.
Big Nats guy.
Big Nats guy now. Moving on to our segments that we do every week. Our dud, when you're hot, you're hotter this week. Let's start with our duds. I'm just in the mood I'm just in that dud mood right now. Who's your dud of the week, Graz, for this week?
Mine is a dud of the week, and I never really get to do this, so I'm calling it not my dud of the year so far, but having a very down year.
Oh, yeah, you missed last week, so you can do your dud of the year or dud of the first half.
Ian Kinsler is having just an awful year. I don't know what's up. Maybe it's just his age. I know he got the big RBI and that walk-off win, but in his last, 7-8 games, I think he has 3 hits. He's hitting 150.
Ian Kinsler, not good.
Not good anymore. I'm bringing up his stats right now for the year. Yeah, he's hitting .213 with 11 home runs. Ian Kinsler used to be the best hitting second baseman in baseball besides Robbie Cano.
So I was surprised when the Angels signed him because they signed Cozart too, who plays second base. Cozart's been having a bad year as well. I think he's injured right now, but Ian Kinsler is definitely washed up. And I've hated that guy ever since he came out and said that Dominican and Latin American players, like they don't respect the game and whatnot. Like, shut up, Ian Kinsler. Who are you to protect the game? So it's great. Karma's coming back to bite him, and I couldn't be happier. He's been in the AL his whole career. I've hated him every time we've played him, whether he's on the Rangers, Tigers he was on for a while. Now he's on the Angels. He's just a loser. You don't want him on your team, in my opinion.
Wow. Good man.
Yeah. Strong take on Ian Kinsler. I'm glad you brought him up because I've said on the podcast before I hate that guy. So a guy I don't hate but's having a bad week is Eric Hosmer from the Padres. Signed for big money in the offseason. Definitely underachieved. I mean, he's not a huge stat guy. He's not going to hit 30 to 40 home runs. Not going to drive in 100-plus RBIs. But this past week, he's been absolutely terrible. He's had 1 hit and 25 at-bats. He's hitting sub 50 for his average, which is absolutely terrible. Struck out 9 times. The Padres make these signings of guys. They did it with Upton a couple years ago. They did it with Kimbrel. They sign these guys thinking they're going to, compete for the playoff spot, and they just don't. And these guys just end up wasting away in San Diego. Maybe it's the weather. They just be like, I don't care. I'm going to take this money and just play terrible and enjoy the weather. I don't know what it is, but Eric Hosmer is my dud of the week for this week. So, moving on to when you're hot, you're hot. I'll go first on this one. Mine's a pitcher from the Brewers. Junior Guerra from the Brewers, 2-0 this past week with a sub-1 ERA. Opponents are hitting like 200 against them this week. He's been an unsung hero of the Brewers rotation. They've had a lot of injuries thus far. His win-loss record isn't great. His ERA is sub-4, but he's had a great week. He's beaten 2 good teams. I just think this guy needs to get a little bit more publicity, and the Brewers as a whole need to get a little bit more publicity. They're playing so well right now, and no one's really talking about them as a World Series contender. So my when you're hot is Junior Guerra from the Brewers.
These Brewers, just in general, are very fun. Have you seen them do the thing after they hit home runs where they stare at the camera? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know that, but I know they all put their hands up and do like some weird like motion.
Like every time they hit a home run at home, where the camera's like right by the side of the dugout, and they all go over it and do like the give it like side eye, and it might be the best thing besides the thumbs down that I've ever seen.
That's great. I know Hanley Ramirez used to do that when he was on the Red Sox, but if the whole team gets involved after a home run, that's awesome.
I don't know if it's every game, but I was watching highlights today, and they hit 3 home runs last night or something, and everyone was doing it. I'm like, I'm 100% in on this team. Solely for that, and their best player has long hair and throws 108 miles an hour. So.
Yeah, the Brewers are feeling good right now. They're feeling good about themselves. They have a lot of guys that have some energy in that dugout, so I think they're on a good roll.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do the CC Sabathia style move again and get someone to be like, we're going for it.
Would love it, because when you're a Brewers fan or involved in the organization, you don't know how many more years you're going to have of this. So might as well do it, especially in baseball. Baseball is a sport where you got to go for it at the deadline if you're having a good year. So
and the NL is down too. Like if I tell you the Brewers are going to make it to the World Series, that's not an outrageous comment.
No, they have the best record in the AL and the NL. The second best is the Cubs, who have had a down year for the Cubs, and the Brewers have been decent against them this year. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a pretty open field if the Brewers can just stay hot. But, again, we've seen it with these teams that go on a rampage in the regular season and then choke when the playoffs come. So it's almost like a prove-it kind of situation. So we'll see with the Brewers. I know we're all rooting for them just because it's good to have some new blood there. So, Graz, who's your when you're hot of this week?
My when you're hot is Nationals related. I said a lot of Nationals things are going to happen on this podcast. And I don't know if it's because he had one really good game, but he had the best baseball weekend I've ever heard, and that's Mark Reynolds. Mark Reynolds had the best baseball weekend you can have. So first, he goes out there and puts a 5-hit game in where he knocks in 10 RBIs. 10 people he knocks in. He goes out there the next day. They're getting shelled by Miami. They're like, you know what? Go out there and throw an inning. So he goes out and throws an inning of pitching. That's a baseball player. That's my when you're hot, you're hot. 10 RBIs, followed by the next day, you get out there and throw an inning of just awful, awful baseball.
Yeah, I feel like that Mark Reynolds signing for the Nationals went under the radar, and he's been great for them. I mean, the last couple of years he's been good for the Rockies, but he's been great for the Nationals. I didn't know he was on their team until a couple of weeks ago when I just saw him in their lineup. I'm like, Mark Reynolds is on the Nationals? All right. And they've needed him. I mean, they don't have a lot of power in that lineup as it constitutes now with Harper sort of struggling. So Reynolds has been great, and like you said, Graz, one day you drive in 10 runs, the next day you're pitching. I mean, how many players can say that? Probably zero.
Not that many on the list, unless you go way back, like Babe Ruth or Ohtani in Japan.
Yeah, maybe Mark Reynolds is the new Ohtani or the new Babe Ruth.
He didn't go. He only went 1/3 of an inning.
Yeah. How was his stuff? Was it good, or was he just throwing cock shots?
That's the thing. I was disappointed because sometimes you see these position players, they're throwing a little sliders that, the pitchers are telling them before they go out. Nah, he was literally throwing BP. Literally just out there throwing BP. It was awful.
Had to do it. Good for Mark Reynolds. I mean, he probably went to the managers like, just let me pitch. I'm hot right now.
Yeah. I knocked in 10 yesterday. I'm feeling it.
Let me try this pitching thing out. Graz, this is when we usually do your mailbag. Do you have any mailbag questions this week? If not, that's fine.
I have a bunch of mailbag questions, and I could just ask you them awkwardly if you want.
Just do it. Run through it.
Okay, number one, this is a great question for you. How amped on a scale of 1 to 10 is Mitch Moreland that he's somehow an all-star?
I mean, he's got to be a 10. Like I said, when you're having a career year, it makes your career to be in the all-star game.
Yeah.
He'll always have that. He'll have one-time all-star, Mitch Moreland. So he's got to be at a 10 right now. And I hope he doesn't get too big for his britches coming back to the Red Sox. Being like, I'm an all-star, boys. Like, Xander, you weren't.
This is all of my friends keep saying. My Red Sox friends are like, this is why we got rid of Hanley. I'm like, you didn't know this. You just got rid of Hanley because you didn't like him. Calm down. And he was El Chapo.
Yeah, I mean, Hanley's not been signed, so that's a pretty good determination that something's up.
I don't know if Hanley wants to be signed, but that's a different story. That's
true, yeah.
Okay, this is a question from me, not actually from the mailbag, but I wanted to ask you before, and it's getting thrown into the mailbag. Is there something in like the food in Detroit where they just keep producing outrageously good bats? Like Miguel Cabrera is obviously there, but Victor Martinez is a name, JD Martinez, Nick Castellanos. Like they just keep these bats out of nowhere.
I mean, some of those guys were good before they went to Detroit. So I think a lot of teams do that. I don't think it's strictly a Detroit thing, but maybe it is. Maybe Castellanos found a great Greek spot. He's just eating up the heroes and whatnot.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, he's just a big Detroit guy. He's loving. What do you eat in Detroit? I know there's like seafood pizza they have there because I listened to Jalen Rose talk about it.
I don't think the food in Detroit. I think they have a lot of like Eastern European food, like Polish food, Russian food, maybe Italian. I don't know.
The Polish can make some food though. There's some good food there.
Yeah, some hearty stuff too. Like I don't know if you want to play after eating like a pierogi or something. Those are pretty filling.
Okay, this is a good question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Should Chris Sale bow out of pitching in the All-Star game and just spend a week sleeping in James Harrison's hyperbolic chamber?
Wow.
I'm trying to get the gist.
How does this question come about? He should just rest instead of pitching the All-Star game, I guess is what
that's the question. But I like my friend's a Steelers fan and also a Red Sox fan. Don't ask about him. But
so I'm a big proponent of I want to see my team. I'm a Red Sox fan. I want to see my guy pitch in the All-Star game. I mean, I could wait 8 innings to see Craig Kimbrell pitch. I want to see Sale out of the gate between the first and the third inning. So I don't really think saving him 1 inning is going to like ruin his second half because I know he's been a slow second half guy over his career. I don't think resting him for the All-Star game is going to do that. So I want to see him pitch. I want to see him how he does against the NL lineup. So I'm going to say, Chris Sale, we need to see you pitch. I don't think you should be anywhere near James Harrison's hyperbolic chamber.
Okay. I'm in with that too. You got to see your guys out there. Okay. Couple more questions here. If the Braves add an arm or two in their bullpen that's not so good, do you see them as the front runner to represent the National League in the World Series?
Not at this point, no. I think if they get that bullpen arm, they for sure win the NL East, which is still a big accomplishment based off what they did last year.
Yeah.
And I think this team is young anyway, so it's like building towards something. I think they're probably 2 or 3 years away. But I still think the Brewers or the Cubs are probably the leaders in the NL with the Dodgers. If they make a Machado-like move or they get another arm as well, they're probably up there as well. But I think that the Atlanta's in the top 5 right now, which I know is not saying a lot. If they get another bullpen arm or two, I think they move into the top 3, I would say.
That's still, you still Their lineup hits unbelievably. Okay, last question. Still National League question. You admitted earlier you're not a big National League guy, so I'm
not.
challenging you.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the D-backs as a quality fit for Manny Machado?
I've heard rumors that they're
Yes.
trying to get him. That's been out there. I guess he would play shortstop or third. I like Jake Lamb at third for them. And my UConn guy, Nick Ahmed's their shortstop right now. So I don't know how I feel about that. But if they I actually like the move. I think Machado would tear it up in that ballpark, kind of like JD Martinez did, because I think Machado has opposite field power in ballparks where he needs it. I see the fit there with Machado. I think you go Goldschmidt, Machado, Lamb, Peralta, as you mentioned earlier, Ketel Marte. I think you got a good thing going there. I think if Machado goes to the NL, whatever team gets Machado in the NL, if he goes to the NL, is the front runner to win the NL title. So if that's the Dodgers, if that's the D-backs, if that's the Cubs, if that's the Brewers, if that's if that's the Braves, if that's the Phillies, if Machado goes to the NL, I think that team's the favorite right away.
I love him going to the Braves. I know the Braves are looking for bullpen arms, but their shortstop situation and their third base situation is kind of in the air. And putting him in that lineup with Albies, with Freeman, with Markakis, just to give you another bat of pop, I would think it would be like injecting JD Martinez in the Red Sox order this year.
Oh, for sure. The Braves have the prospects to do it too. It's just whether they want to pull the trigger. So
it's also they think Machado will stay afterward.
Yeah, I mean, I think any team that gets him at this point would be I think he's going to shop himself around in free agency. So I don't think anyone's going to get a guarantee that he'll resign. I think the Orioles understand that, and the teams will offer, whatever they need to offer accordingly. They're not just going to throw all their top prospects and be like, we need Machado. I mean, it's a rental at this point anyways.
Yeah, it's absolutely a rental.
So is that all you got, Graz, for your mailbag?
The mailbag is now
good mailbag today.
Yeah.
Mailbag.
Always. We always have good mail. What do you mean today? We always have good mailbags.
Yeah, well, I like the weird questions. I like the ones where we get off topic a little bit. When you're bringing up James Harrison's hyperbolic chamber.
Well, I could have asked you the real Mitch Moreland question, but I changed it up a little for the kids.
Yeah, we are a PG-13 podcast.
Yeah, we're a PG-13. We do say fuck once in a while, but not enough where we're an R.
Yeah, that's the one F word for this podcast, Graz just used, so I can't use it anymore. So, Graz, if you follow the Tater Talk pod on Twitter, Graz put together a great bracket of baseball video game characters, put them into NCAA tournament style. Graz, it's been getting a buzz on Twitter. I'm not going to lie.
I know.
It's been getting buzz. People are commenting. The Mario baseball is getting a lot of love. It seems like a lot of people played that as you did, Graz. What's the update on the bracket at this point? Are we going into the matchups? What are we doing?
I'm just going to dive right into the matchups. We're going to do two easier ones today with you and me, and then we'll bring Justin in for the harder ones next week.
Okay.
Okay, so right here, I'm going to insert the beautiful drop that I created. And I'm going to leave this in. I'm going to leave this whole part in. I'm going to cut it, and you're going to have this awkward pause. And it's right now. Back. I hope you guys love that. That was a sick drop. Thank you. It took me about 10 minutes to make. Okay, your first matchup. We're just going to go the 1-16 matchup today, and then we will do the 8-9 matchup. We're starting in the top left region on your brackets, boys and girls.
You should have made like the fields like Steel Stadium and backyard baseball.
Yep.
Steel Stadium side of the bracket.
So we'll call this the Steel. No, because the Aluminum Stadium didn't have home runs. That was the one. I hated that one because Pablo was pointless in that one.
No, Steel Stadium was Ernie Steele's backyard. It was like the pool was in left. The center field was a short porch.
I thought there's like the one with like the shipping containers. That like.
Oh yeah, that's a weird one. I didn't like that one. I want a clear home run delineation.
I want a home run to left because as we're about to talk about, the number 1 seed Pablo Sanchez from Backyard Baseball is taking on your addition, Keisha Phillips, the 16 seed. Make an argument for Keisha.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think Keisha is a more consistent hitter than Pablo Sanchez. Pablo Sanchez definitely has the pop, and his strike zone is so small that anything he hits just goes. But I think Keisha Phillips is the more average hitter. She's more of a line drive hitter. She's not feast or famine like Pablo Sanchez. With that being said, I'm going to have to vote for Pablo Sanchez in this spot. He's the 1 seed. To me, he's the clear guy. He's like that that team in March Madness who has all the one and dones that have just ran through the season. So to me, it's Pablo Sanchez in this lineup. But I like Keisha Phillips as a player. She's a very underrated backyard baseball player.
She was surprisingly good. She always played catcher for me because she wasn't really the best fielder, but her bat was
First
always
base.
very important.
First base or catcher, for sure.
She had a good arm, though. She could throw people out at second, but unfortunately just got dropped in at the wrong spot.
Yep. Okay. Are you going Pablo too?
Yeah, I'm absolutely Pablo. I didn't even consider it. I was just hoping you had an argument, which you did. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay, the last matchup. So here's the idea, boys and girls that are listening. Every week we'll do 2 matchups until we get to the end of it, and so on and so forth. And every week I'll post it again. I'll fill in the names so you can follow along and tell me why I'm wrong, or tell Zach why he's wrong. The other matchup I wanted to talk about today, in the same region to face Pablo in the next round, you have Hammer Bros for Mario Baseball, and then very timely, actually, the reason I chose to do this one, Nick Markakis, the 9 seed from my favorite baseball video game of all time, MLB Power Pros.
All right, so this is going to come from an uneducated position. I never played either of these games, but I'm going to vote for Nick Markakis because this is the year of Nick Markakis after he made the All-Star game. So I'm voting Nick Markakis from Power Pros over the Hammer Bros from Mario Baseball.
I'm glad you voted that way because I didn't have to tell you the story about Nick Markakis and why he's on this list. Shout out my friend James Laitman for always playing this game when I was 6 years old till when I was like 15. Nick Markakis, so this game is like Japanese. It was made from Japan, so it was like Japanese characters.
I'm looking it up now. It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievably fun. And so pitching was like, it was the exact opposite of All-Star Baseball, where pitching was irrelevant and you win games like 26-24.
What is this game? How have I never heard about this?
It was on the Wii.
Oh, that's why.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So you'd have like these pitches come in and you just hit dingers. Nick Markakis is the only person in a video game or in any time that has hit 7 home runs in multiple games.
Wow. That's tough to beat stat. This is insane.
Yeah, it's a great game. He is a 2-time 7 home run hitter when he was playing for the Baltimore Orioles in that game. He was unbelievable and a lockdown outfielder. So Nick Markakis, for me, wins this by a landslide. But to give him his due, Hammer Bros is an unbelievable power hitter. Small frame, reminds me of Mookie Betts. Like, oh, this guy can't hit one out, and then hits absolute missiles with his hammer.
Wow, getting a Mookie Betts for your MLB comp is pretty high praise.
Yeah,
I'm looking up Hammer Bros now, and he's like, yeah, I recognize this guy from all the Mario games. He's the turtle. He's a turtle shell guy.
He's Mookie Betts. He's Mookie Betts, and Nick Markakis' comp would be Jesus Christ.
All right, yeah. So Nick Markakis moves through.
Yeah,
a little upset. I know the 8-9 isn't considered an upset, but we'll go with it here. The higher seed is 1.
So that's it. That's it. Next week we'll talk about. I'll preview a little bit next week. Oh, we gotta save it. This is Manny Ramirez, the cover boy, versus A-Rod, and John Dowd and Blue Pineda from Mario Baseball. That's going to be an excellent matchup. So please come back next week as we continue this wonderful bracket that I came up with. So
the Elite 8 matchup is going to be Pablo Sanchez versus Nick Markakis, but that's going to be in a couple weeks.
That's in a couple weeks. We're going to go all the way around in these. Would this be the quarterfinals?
Quarterfinals, yeah.
No. These are the like the 8th finals.
This is the round of 16.
The round of 16, and then to get to the quarterfinals.
We're using World Cup. We're using NCAA tournament. I love it.
Yeah,
I'll do my research too. I remember John Dowd. I know Manny Ramirez from MVP 05. I'll have to look up Blue Pineda.
He's the guy who hit with the tree. He's from Super Mario Sunshine. He hit with a tree. It was unbelievable.
All right, and I know A-Rod from MLB Slugfest. He was probably on steroids at the time, so I'm already knowing what he was up to there. So
he hit balls out of Yankee Stadium in that game. I think actually he was on Texas at that time. He was hitting balls out of the Texas Ranger Stadium at that time.
Yeah, that's peak steroid A-Rod.
Yep.
Texas MLB Slugfest.
Yep.
All right, Graz, thanks for the video game update. Keep abreast to the Twitter for updates on that, matchups moving forward. Give your opinions on them. If you think we're shit, say it. If we're not, agree with us. That's pretty much it. But we always have one last thing from Graz. Graz, do you have one last thing today? We've covered a lot, but I'm sure you have something.
It's very simple. We haven't talked about it in a couple weeks. The Baltimore Orioles are 16.5 games back of the 4th place spot. So my $1 is looking very safe right now.
We should do the calculations to see what the magic number is at this point. It's getting close.
It's getting dangerously close. I don't know what I'm going to spend this dollar on. If you hear this, please tweet in what I should spend my dollar on.
Yeah, a dollar doesn't go a long way anymore. I saw a tweet on Twitter the other day that was hilariously funny. I think it was from an NBA player. They said $1 to a kid is like an adult, $20 to an adult. So like at our age, $20 is like $1 at this point, which is insane.
So I should have bet $20 on this, is what you're telling me.
I mean, I don't think you should have bet $20 on it, but like you can't buy anything for $1 anymore. You know,
well,
it's tough.
I have a couple ideas, but I want to hear. Let me know what I should buy with Justin's dollar. That's what I need to know.
Yeah, we should tape you going into the dollar store and see what you
it's like moving around. I'll go with a GoPro. Easy.
Yeah. So Graz, bringing that up when Justin's not on the podcast. For anyone that doesn't know, Justin and Graz bet that the Tampa Bay Rays wouldn't finish in last place. They are one game above 500 right now in the AL East. Not that far out of a wild card spot. And the Orioles have been so bad that it's almost locked up Graz's dollar at this point. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the season. Graz probably has it locked up. I would feel very safe if I were you, Graz, and I feel like you feel the same way at this point. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think that's about it. I think that wraps up the pod. Follow us on Twitter, subscribe on iTunes, Tater Talk Pod on all platforms. Getting more active on Instagram and Facebook. So peep that. All-Star game coming up next week, Home Run Derby. We may do a special podcast for that, maybe a live sort of thing while we're watching those events, just because, everything, we want to know people's opinions in a live setting. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's it, Graz. You have anything else?
No, enjoy your week of baseball, the last week of baseball before the All-Star break.
Yep, the monotonous last week is almost over, and we'll be on to the All-Star game, which is great. Great spectacle. All right, peace.